Well, hi there. Jason Rosen here with Troy Aupperle. I'm very excited to be here with him today. Just to start, I'm going to give you, those who don't know me, a really brief background on myself. I've been working in the pharmaceutical grade nutrition industry for about the last 4 years, heavily focused on the side of teaching practitioners kinesiology and doing that more on a hands-on basis in clinics with practitioners. So one of the things I really like to do is roll up my sleeves and visit with a practitioner as I'm teaching them and work on patients together. So that's what I've been doing for about the last 4 years, and I'm stepping out now into maybe doing that at a little larger scale with a few different nutrition companies. And one I'm absolutely thrilled to be working with is U.S.Enzymes, and that brings us to Troy, who I'm going to let give a little background on himself, how his story came about, and how U.S.Enzymes came about. Troy.
Yeah, thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
A pleasure. I mean, the day we met and sat down and started talking, we just had an immediate connection. So I just feel that this was meant to be. So as far as my background, very similar with enzymes, that it was just meant to be. And from a big picture perspective, I think that's why I'm here on planet Earth. So it was 25 years ago, started reading about enzymes, and it took a while. I mean, enzymes are a very complex topic. But once I got the idea, the light popped on for me, and I was like, whoa, I could benefit hugely from this, and especially from an athletic point of view. So back then there were two things that I was undertaking. One was a solo bicycle ride across America, which I dreamed about for 11 years. And the enzyme showed up just at the right time, so I was able to use those on my journey across America. And then second, right before that was the Death March, which is a race across the Grand Canyon and back. It's 50 miles, 13,000 feet down, 13,000 feet out. If you don't complete it in 24 hours, you're disqualified. So I actually won that race. And again, and there's a long history of what Jason mentioned earlier as far as climbing and a whole bunch of athletic endeavors that have ensued since then. But throughout the years, I mean, I've benefited directly from enzymes in all of my athletic endeavors. So to be able to, I was a whitewater raft guide for 5 years, did that professionally, also got into climbing and mountaineering. So that's really been my main passion and focus in life for the last 25 years. So was able to climb the 7 summits, the highest peak on each of the 7 continents, also bag all the 54 peaks in Colorado, and then just within the next 2 weeks I'll be finishing up the 50 high pointers, the highest peak in each one of the 50 states. So again, I think there may be one other person on the planet that's done that much climbing or loves climbing that much that is out there doing these kind of crazy things. But yeah, out of all those 25 years, I've had no injuries, no illnesses, nothing. I mean, I find that simply astounding, especially when I look around, you read books on people that run, people that climb, do all these dangerous events. And I mean, there's just a lot of serious consequences that come with playing at that level. And I attribute that. I mean, in fact, I'm going to tell a quick story on Mount Everest. The average guy goes up there, 185 pounds. He comes back at about 160. He's going to lose 25 pounds. It's a 2-month full-time endeavor to go climb that peak. I had an opportunity to do that twice. I lost 14 pounds on both trips. Now, if you can do the math, I mean, 14 pounds versus 25 pounds, I go, that's a significant amount of muscle mass that I'm keeping, right? I'm stronger. Yeah, it's just amazing, the results, yeah, from that perspective. So very, very specific example there, but I definitely have benefited from taking enzymes now for almost 25 years. So, and I always tell people, I go, I'm just getting warmed up. So there's a lot to come. Yeah, especially as you age, that's where the enzymes really become important. So especially in this country, we see the baby boomers now kind of going into that second phase or that final phase of life, and you go, boy, they're the ones that are going to benefit the most.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly is an incredible story, and it's always exciting to hear, how people's journey started, and when nutrition has truly touched their lives and helped them accomplish their goals, which is what it's really all about when it comes to finding the right nutritional product, and at least in my mind. So let's talk a little bit about, you said you've been doing enzymes for 25 years. So from my understanding, you've been providing enzymes to the nutrition companies of the world as like a wholesale provider. And in the background, you've been secretly kind of formulating this next level line, shall we say, that we are going to provide exclusively only to practitioners. Can you talk a little bit about how we got to that stage? And yeah, if you could take it from there.
Sure, absolutely. And again, from personal experience, I mean, working with supplying the suppliers, the sourcing, the manufacturing, all the back end piece for well over 2 decades has opened up a lot of doors for me and given me the opportunity to sit down and actually kind of expand my horizon, so to speak, and allow me to look at some things that most people would never have the opportunity to do. So, and again, from my personal perspective and athletic background, I wanted to always looking for something cutting edge, something that's going to give me more of an advantage, so to speak, out there. So this project has probably been 6 years. So it's U.S.Enzymes have been around for 6 years, and again, going through various stages and iterations. But as far as the formulas, I mean, that's what's really going to be exciting when we get into the kind of the energy and also just the biochemistry piece of what we have to offer is truly fascinating, amazing stuff. So again, just an absolute pleasure to take it from kind of a very generic thing to, again, to a much higher level and very specific. And this is something that, again, we want to offer exclusively to healthcare professionals.
Okay, very fascinating stuff. So next, we're going to get into some of the goodies. So one thing that practitioners I know are always looking for is studies. Show me your research. Right. And not just research on an active, show me research on your actual product. And I'm very excited to let these practitioners know we have an awesome study, not on an active, but on our actual nutrition. And it's a study called AstraZyme. So AstraZymes, pretty cool sounding, energetic name. Can you elaborate a little bit on how you came up with that?
Yeah, again, I think that was just meant to be, and the fact that it wasn't taken,
right.
or being used is simply amazing. So it was, again, a testimonial to just the synergistic nature of what's happening with the company. So the study, we initiated that in 2013. So again, it was in conjunction with another company that has a very long history of doing clinical research and very well established and well known for that. So this is a unique combination of proteolytic enzymes, minerals, and a couple of special herbs. So that combination, the study lasted about 6 months. It was an in vitro study. It was done using human CACO2 cells, which is kind of the marker for most pharmaceutical companies as far as absorption and that aspect of the digestion process. So we wanted to cover 2 things in the study. One was how quickly the enzymes break the proteins down, which is important because we're a protein organism and we're going to utilize those proteins more efficiently if we can do that. And then the second thing was dealing with how quickly those proteins, once they're broken down into peptides and amino acids, how quickly they're absorbed and the quantity of what was absorbed. So we didn't know what to expect. So at the end of that 6-month study, we were absolutely amazed by the results. So the first thing that we knew and verified was the fact that 96% of the protein was digested completely into smaller peptides and amino acids within 30 to 60 minutes. So check that box, that's done. 2, we went on to the how quickly amino acids and peptides were absorbed. So that rate increased between 31 and 40%. So that's huge. I mean, right, because as that stuff is, the proteins, amino acids, peptides are passing through the intestinal tract, there's limited time for the body to grab and utilize those. So if you can increase that rate, you're gonna have much better recuperation times. You're gonna benefit greatly from that. And then the last piece was just the quantity. So we also saw an increase of the actual peptides and amino acids that were absorbed, not just the rate, but that was also between 30 and 40% increase. So these are significant numbers. I mean, with pharmaceutical companies, if they do a study and they see a change of 5%, that's like something to jump out of the chair for. So if we're talking 30 to 40%, these are massively significant. So I think this is kind of a game changer. So that's why, going back to the name of the product, AstraZyme, it just fit, because the results were truly astronomical.
Right. So this study, this is available to the practitioners who want to maybe do a little geeking out on the research.
Yep,
correct?
absolutely.
So that'll be just right on the website for them to check out. And we can send them a hard copy as well, I'm assuming.
Yep. Yes.
So the AstraZyme formula is going to be in both of our digestive products, and maybe the future that formula will be in some of the other parts of the line. So it's not only the only piece of the digestive products, correct?
Right. For right now, it's part of the study focused on digestion. So that's why, as far as breaking the proteins down and the assimilation piece of it. So again, moving forward, we'd have to just relook at how we want to set up clinical studies to look at things more from a systemic perspective, and then we could go ahead and add it to the other products.
To the other formulas.
Yep.
Fantastic. So another really interesting part about the astrozyme, the word is that, it's kind of astro in the fact that it's got some really cool sacred geometry and energetic aspects to it, like mixing the geometry of a mineral and an enzyme. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Oh, this is my favorite part, right? So this is where it gets really interesting. So, and this is what, enzymes have been around for over 100 years, and yet why hasn't this information been brought forth? So again, I think it's just the nature of the symbiotic and synergistic relationship of what's happening here. So, and also that's reflected in the product. So let's talk a little bit about enzymes. So enzymes are three-dimensional protein structures. So they fold back onto themselves. So that structure forms a tetrahedron, right, or a four-faced or four-sided pyramid. So that's the fact number one. And then what we wanted to do was have a mineral that mimicked, right, or mirrored that exact same tetrahedron shape. So it took years, right, to find that, and also to go processes to go from different suppliers to get to a pharmaceutical grade GRAS, generally regarded as safe mineral. So this is the only one that we know of or are aware of in the world. But again, from a sacred geometry, and I just have to go back to my roots, because some of the early people that had a huge impact on me was Tesla and Buckminster Fuller. So those two guys kind of sum up, like my gurus and my mentors. So and again, going back to Buckminster Fuller, he's the creator of the geodesic dome, and again, really synergetics, which was the mathematics based on the tetrahedron. So and again, he was saying that the tetrahedron is the foundation or the foundational pattern of the universe. So I just thought all of this stuff kind of coming together was really unique. And again, with the star tetrahedron, you have I always give the example of the enzyme being the one tetrahedron and the mineral being the other, and they come together and form that perfect geometric, sacred geometry pattern. So that's really what's represented in the products.
All right, Troy, let's just talk about enzymes in general, kind of take a step back here. Like 4 things that we can look for on a label to make sure we're getting a truly therapeutic process. And you said there's a 5th thing that you want to look out for when you're enzyme hunting.
And actually that 5th thing, I'm going to do that first, because that's truly the most important thing, and it's the one thing you can't find on the label, and that's where did the enzymes come from? So, and this is important from 2 perspectives. One, if you know your source, where they're coming from, one, as far as the efficacy of the product is ensured, right? Because then you go back to the source, you look at how it's manufactured, how it's produced. Those are all becoming very, very important factors in this world of transparency. And then 2, also from a safety perspective, and many of you may have been a part of this or heard of this, but the first enzyme recall ever happened this last October 2013, and it kind of shook the whole enzyme industry. And I believe, I don't know of too many companies that were not impacted by that, but we were one of the few that were not. So again, that goes back to the fact that you go, where is your stuff coming from? Know your source. So we've had relationships with these companies for 20 plus years. We visited the facilities, we know these people, how they handle things, how they do things, and again, everything is transparent. So we didn't have those issues. So I think you're not going to see that on the label. So that's why it's important to know who you're buying your enzymes from. So if you're buying from me, it's important for me to know where I'm buying those enzymes from. And that's one of the missing links, because most of the enzyme companies that are offering products out in the marketplace, even to healthcare professionals, do not source their own enzymes. They do not do their own manufacturing. That's a problem.
So what questions would I ask, like my rep at the nutrition company I'm looking at purchasing enzymes for? What are the key questions, and what are the answers to those questions that I'm looking for?
From that perspective, the sourcing perspective, I would again make sure that they're doing 100% of their own manufacturing, not outsourcing anything. And then 2, find out what countries those enzymes are coming from. So the enzyme recall that did happen, those enzymes were coming from India, which, at this point you go, we don't purchase from that country. We're purchasing from Japan, Korea, and Taiwan. So again, and the reason for that is because Southeast Asian countries, I mean, basically originated the fermentation process, have been doing it for thousands of years. So they've perfected, they know what they're doing. There have been no issues in our industry for the last 100 years when dealing with these companies from those countries. So that's why that's an important thing. That's probably the first thing you want to ask.
And the Japanese, they've been in the enzyme game since day one, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely, positively. So they're kind of the gold standard, if you want to call it that. And then we'll go back to your question about the labels. So there are 4 things you want to look on the, once you know the sourcing, you trust the company, where they're coming from, and that you're not going to be involved in a potential recall situation, then you move on to the label. So then we'll get into potency. So potency is kind of the horsepower that each enzyme will have or is going to offer you. So and those are measured according to a very specific assay method, which is FCC. So, and a lot of that gets really complicated. We'll have to cover that at a different point. But as long as that information is transparent and on the label, that's important, because then you can compare apples to apples that way. So if a company has protease 30,000 HUTs and we have protease 100,000 HUTs, okay, you're comparing apples to apples, and you know that this enzyme is 3.3 times stronger, or faster. It has 3 times more horsepower, in other words. So it's going to get the job done quicker. That's hugely important. So again, there are a lot of companies that do not put the activity or the horsepower of the enzymes on their label. Big red flag, right? That's saying they don't want you to compare their products. So with our company, 100% transparency. Everything is listed on the label. We want you to freely go out and compare these to any other products, because we really don't think there's anything out there that's of this caliber. So that was the first thing, was the potency piece. Yeah, then we look for diversity. So this is just the number of different enzymes that are in the blend. So we have 3 main categories of food types that we want to break down. The first one, proteins. So in all the 2 digestive formulas, we have 8 different proteolytic enzymes. Most companies will have 1 or 2. With carbohydrates or sugars, there are 12 different enzymes that will break those down. And then with fats, we have 2 different lipases. So again, a lot of diversity. We have 23 different enzymes that are involved in the digestive process. So again, you have more, if you want to think of it as a long chain, and you have a bunch of scissors that are cutting those little bonds into the tiny pieces. Now you have 23 scissors instead of, let's say, we did a kind of a little research project to see who's doing what out in the enzyme world before we came out with these products. And the vast majority of digestive enzyme products have less than 10 enzymes in the blend. Total. So yeah, total. So now you got 10 versus 23, again, 2.3 times faster. So those are just much, much more effective enzymes from that perspective. And then one of the other factors we look at is the piece with purity. And purity is, actually, there are 2 parts to it. I mean, the first part is are they clean? From a microbiological perspective, do we identify them, and also do we assay them for their horsepower? Yes, we do all those things, but there's another aspect of purity, and that has to do with what else is being put in the capsule.
Absolutely,
so,
that's a huge piece.
Yeah, I know some very well-established companies that are calling an enzyme, and if you look at the label, it's a 500 milligram capsule. 350 milligrams of those are herbs. 150 milligrams of those are enzymes. Now, I don't know how you can, honestly call that an enzyme. I mean, I would label that as a herb with enzymes, right? Because you go, the vast majority of the products, or what's in the product, is something else other than enzymes. So I have I'm very adverse to that. So I go, that's why if you're paying for an enzyme and you want to get the full result and benefit from it, our formulas are almost 100% enzymes. There are only a couple things that we add to that. We already talked about the minerals, and what that does is supercharge the enzymes. So those are in there. And there's a rice extract, which is a flow agent for getting into the capsule, which is a couple milligrams. Other than that, it's 100% enzymes.
Amazing.
That's important. And the 5th thing that we'll talk about, or 4th thing for the labels, is just dealing with the packaging piece. So if you look at most enzymes that are out there, there's only a couple of enzymes that are offered in glass bottles. My feeling is if something's valuable, you want to protect it. Glass is the absolute best protection from the environment. So that's why all of our products will be in glass bottles.
And not only glass, but the color of the glass is hugely important as well, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
So why do we use the violet colored glass?
Well, again, just from a energy and light perspective, it has a very high vibration. So that's, again, that's what we want to start with the product, the enzymes and minerals. You can see what kind of energy and feel what those have, and then expand that through the packaging, through the the people that are representing the product,
Right.
all the way through, right? So it's very consistent that way.
And also, to my understanding, that color of glass will completely 100% block certain nanometers of light that can degrade the enzymes themselves, correct?
Yes. And then a couple other things with packaging is that obviously you don't want anything absorbing moisture, right? Because moisture will activate enzymes. So we use rayon inside as well as a desiccant to absorb moisture. And then sealed inside as far as under the lid, and then we have the outer seal. And also, this is my own thing. I mean, just because I'm a freak about saving time, right? It's like I have the pop top lid because I've been to some people's houses and I've seen they've taken 20 products in the morning. I go, they're taking the cap off of 20. I added that up. I'm like, wow. I mean, over your lifetime, you probably waste 7 days of just opening and closing
caps,
bottles. I go,
right?
I don't have time for that. So
Right.
I go, yeah, just simple things like that. You flip the lid, dump it out, put it back, and I go, boy, get on with your busy day. So those are all very important things. And the other piece is, the last piece I'll just mention with labeling is and packaging piece is that 7 out of the 12 months have 31 days. I mean, I don't know where the 30-day thing came in, because if across the board, across the country, across the companies, it's 30 capsules. I'm like, you're not getting enough for a month.
Right.
Yeah, 7 months out of the year. So we just said, hey, let's just offer a little bit more instead of not quite enough.
Right.
So all of our products are based on multiples of 31.
Right.
Yes.
So, like, for example, 93 capsules is pretty standard for the
Yes.
bottle, which
Yep.
a typical patient who's not in, like, an acute stage of illness or in a really nasty chronic stage of illness,
Right.
that's going to be a month's supply right there.
Absolutely.
All great points. And for those of you that might be freaking out, like, all right, I got to take all these notes, don't worry. We have PDFs that are very specific things that you can just put all these different 4 points that Troy said to look for on the label and match them up to any enzyme label, and there you go. But we just wanted to elaborate on those points and why we feel they're very important.